Okay, everybody, we're going to start. For people who are not here from the beginning, when I turn this on, I know you may not want to, but if you can turn your camera on, I'd love that because I'm used to teaching in the classroom and I love to see reaction faces, and that otherwise it's really lonely teaching here and just looking at me. So thank you for turning your camera on. Nice to meet you all. So my name is Professor Figueira. I've been at Santa Clara for a really long time. I teach programming, I teach computer networks, I teach energy efficient computing. So most of my work nowadays is in actually coding for social impact. So we build applications for impoverished areas to help them out. So we do basically humanitarian computing. So I have lots of students working with me in projects all the time. And I basically love what I do. So I teach intro to programming and I teach advanced programming. And so considering the fact that I don't know where you are and where background is, we're gonna do something just for fun. It's not exactly a lecture that I would use in my classroom, but it's like it'll give you an idea. Okay, so just so that I have a clue here, if you have never programmed before, can you type never in the chat so that I know? If you never programmed before, type never in the chat. You all have programmed before. Okay, one. Interesting, there's some. Okay, very few. So I'm assuming most of you have programmed before. There's no prereqs. I'm just gonna give like a very introductory course. So you may be really bored here if you already programmed, but we're gonna try to do something fun at the end, at least just to show you a little interesting simulation for web programming. Okay, so in Quen 10 is the first course at Santa Clara that teaches introduction to programming. And we do use PHP actually to start teaching programming. And the whole idea is that PHP is fun. PHP is designed for the web. So that means that we do web programming in a very high level way to introduce programming fundamentals. So we do that, and then PHP has the same syntax as C, the language that we really gonna use. And so when we transition from PHP to C, it's really easy for the students. So PHP is just like a fun language that we use to start on. But it's not only fun. PHP is actually a language used in the real world. It's not just like a toy language, but it's fun to do. And then we use that when we're programming in C because it's the same syntax, and that the transition is actually very easy. So for people who never program, although there are very few of you, what's a program anyway? So a program is gonna be a set of instructions that's gonna tell the computer what to do. That's pretty much it. The computer, the electrical engineers don't like when I say that, but the computer is pretty dumb actually. It doesn't do anything unless we come in and tell you what to do. So the computing people are the cool people, the people that actually tells the computer, these are the instructions, that's what you're gonna do. So we use programs to basically solve specific problems, and as users you are on the other end basically using these programs that the computing people build. Programs are written in different languages, and there's a lot of them: C, C++, Java, Python, PHP, and there are way more. C is the main language for the computer science and engineering students in our program because it's computer science and engineering. So our students have to learn to program at the lower level, which is C. But they also program in C++, Python, Java, and PHP is used in the beginning just to introduce the fundamental concepts in a fun way. But they learn JavaScript and other web languages as well. So the students in Santa Clara, they learn a broad range of languages, and they're very well prepared for all kinds of different jobs later on. By the way, if you have a question, you feel free to type in. I will try to keep looking. You can even wave if you have your camera on. Actually, I'd rather you wave, but yeah, this is an interesting situation because I don't know you, and we'll see. So what is PHP? PHP It stands for hypertext preprocessor. And the name is very bad and doesn't say much, but it's a web. It's basically a language designed for web programming, for the web. It's widely used. It's actually free and open source. So basically you can download the PHP, put in your computer and play with it, which is really cool. So this is why it grew a lot, because it's basically free. It's a powerful tool that enables you to make your web page dynamic. So, you know, when you go on the web and your web page does stuff, that's because there is a language there doing that stuff for you. The interesting thing about PHP is that PHP doesn't execute on your browser. So you are on your browser and you have a web page. Anything that is moving, and if it's using PHP, it's being executed in the server. And actually the answer comes back to your browser. So it's a different thing. It's not really executed on your computer, basically. Your computer just receives the answer as a web page. So this is why usually PHP pieces are gonna be inserted in your web page, like I'm gonna show you in a sec. Okay. So basic PHP syntax. Again, you're going to have a web page with all these HTML comments. I know you may not know a lot about that, but you're going to see in a little bit in an example. And then you're going to have a little PHP code in the middle of the web page. So this is going to be there to start the code, and then it's going to end with that. So basically, you're going to have inserts of PHP that, you know, doing things in the middle of your web page. So this is an example here. So this is telling the browser, oh, there is code here. And then there is the code and the end of it. So in this case, basically, echo is just output. So it's gonna just write hello world in your web page. That's how it's gonna go. Okay, going back to the programming, some fundamental components, because some people have never programmed, everybody else just, you know, stay with me. So variables is a big deal. Every language is gonna have to deal with variables somehow. It's like in math. So basically you're gonna have variables that change values as you calculate something or define something. And at the end, basically you have the variables with the final thing that you are determining. They have a unique name. They're gonna receive an initial value usually, and they're gonna change as you go, and they're gonna hold the final value. Every language has a different set of rules for variables, and you're gonna see that PHP has its own rules, which are actually very annoying. Basic statements and are gonna end up with a semicolon. If you forget that, nothing works, so you have to pay attention to that. The statements are assignments, giving values to variables, and calls for functions to do things, like echo, for example. Okay, so in PHP, the names are gonna start with a $sign. Every variable has a $sign in the beginning, which we forget, and then nothing works, and it takes a lot of time to, you know, find problems like that. So, and then they can have letters or numbers or an underscore. So something, and assignments are gonna be something like that. So I'm assigning 1 to variable X, and then 2 to variable Y, and 3 to variable Z, and I can change the value of X by saying that's Y plus Z. It's a lot like math. So basically you're gonna be doing these operations and assign values to variables. And then I can change X again, and then I can call this function to basically output the value X. So pretty much like math, except that now we're gonna have to show what you did, right? Because if you don't have an output to show the result, the computation is basically useless. So this is the idea in a nutshell of how you deal with variables in PHP. Can never forget the $sign. Okay, then we have flow statements, and those are the 3 things that create a computation. And basically everything else is gonna be based on these 3 concepts. The first one is sequence. So statements are gonna happen in the order defined by the program. So again, the computer is gonna receive this list of things to be done, and it's gonna do one after the next, after the next, after the next. It goes in sequence. It doesn't skip around. Basically things are gonna be executed in order. That's it. So we are telling it do this, do this, do this, do this. That's how it works. So sequence is the first fundamental here that programs are gonna use. The second one is condition. So we wanna be able to tell the computer, depending on a situation, do something. If not, do something else. And this is the second of our main fundamentals. We want to be able to specify some kind of condition that's going to help the computer figure out what to do next. Okay, so far? Can I see some nods or not? Good, okay. So those are super important. The third one, final one, is repetition. So you need to be able to tell the computer to do something like a number of times, or while some kind of condition is true or false for that matter. So repetition is the third main thing. So we do things in a sequence, we do things depending on some kind of condition, and we do things again and again and again. And again and again is really important because a lot of the things we do in computing is traversing data. So most of what we do in computing is traversing data. And so data are huge. So in computing, one of the most important things is coming up with ideas on how to traverse this data in a clever way. But at the end of the day, when you go, to the core of what you're doing, you're basically doing things over and over and over again. Just that we're going to have different ways to do that. And some are going to be more efficient for different situations, and some are going to be better for other situations. So when you learn more and you get into more courses like data structures, you're going to learn a lot of ways to basically save data and traverse data. But the core of everything we do is basically based on these three things: sequence, condition, and repetition. And that's it. So computing is basically a combination of these in different ways. Okay, so I'm going to give examples of, I don't have a clock here, so I'm worried about that. Okay, some examples of how PHP deals with that. So basically condition, that's the syntax for PHP. If condition is going to come in parentheses is true, the first set of statements, if this condition is true, the set of statements are going to be executed. If it's not, you go into the else, this set of instructions is going to be executed. The condition is based on, things like comparison, and if it's equal, if it's not equal, greater than, less than, and stuff like that. So these are the main things that we use for comparing things and create a condition. Okay, just an example in PHP. If x is equal to 0, we're going to add 1 to x. This plus plus here means adding 1. A bunch of you probably who know Java and C++ and C probably have seen that. Otherwise, I'm going to, decrease 1. So basically, either you're going to go do the first one or the second one, depending on the value of x. Okay, so if it's 0, first one. If it's not 0, the second one. Again, I'm just showing you like a nutshell, right? It could be more, there are more stuff into PHP than that. But at the end of the day, this is what you're doing. So while a condition, this is the example for the repetition. So while the condition is actually true, we are going to run this statement. So you're going to be doing this over and over and over again until finally the condition is false. When the condition is false, you're going to jump to the next instruction after the bracket. So, and again, those are the main ideas. PHP has more. PHP has different ways of doing repetition, and PHP can have more extended ways of doing if-else, with else-if, for example, for several conditions, but I don't want to go into too much because we only have 45 minutes. Okay, and these are, again, the same things that are used for the condition. So far, so good? Y'all with me? No questions? Okay. Okay, so one example here for a repetition using PHP is I started x with 1, and I'm going to do this while x is less than or equal to 5. So x is right now, when you first get in here, x is 1, so this is actually true. So we're going to go here, and we're going to output 1 and increase the x, okay? When you're going to increase the x, and you go back here to check. X is now 2. So we are going to get in here, output the x, make x 3, go around. X is now 3. So we are still good, still true. So we're going to go down, output x, and increase x again. X is now 4. So you go here. It's true. So go down into the loop, output the 5, and then add 1. Now when you go here, How much is X? It's going to be 6, right? So when X is 6, this is actually false. So you're going to check X6. You're not going to print anything because you're going to get out of the loop and be done with it. Okay, so we call this a loop, actually. The repetition structure creates a loop. So you are in the loop for 5 times, okay, while the X has the value that's less than or equal to 5. And you're going to be doing whatever code is here until you're finally done. Good? Everybody okay-ish with the loop concept? Okay, we're going to have some interesting examples here. So this is, I just thought we were going to do something for fun. So W3 schools, don't know how many of you have heard about that. They have a way to run PHP to try it out on the web. So if you have a computer there and you want to try it out with me, go to w3schools.com/PHP, and I'm going to be putting some examples there for you guys to try to see what happens, okay, in PHP on a web page. So this is the first example there. Again, this is my PHP code. I'm just going to print a bunch of hellos, okay, just for fun. So whatever I want to tell the browser, I need to echo in a string. So I'm going to tell the browser that I want the font to be white and the background to be blue. I'm creating a variable name and I'm giving the value of hello there. And I'm going to have a loop here that executes 5 times, just like we saw before. Okay, so it's going to get in, it's going to execute and then add 1 and go back again. But every time I go, I'm going to tell the browser to make it bigger. Okay, so this is telling the browser, make it bigger, and then print. And then this is the end of the line, go to the next line and go again. So it's going to act, I will be 1, and you print hello, go around. I is 2, print hello, 3, print hello, just like we saw before, print hello, 5. So we're going to print hello 5 times and then be done with it. But in the browser, we're going to say that every time you actually do that, it's going to become a little bit bigger. So let's change here so that I can grab the code. What did I do? I got it wrong. Not doing what I want. Okay, that's not what I want. Yeah, this is not gonna work. Okay. Okay, can you guys see my screen with the PHP? Can you guys see that? The PHP one? Yes, okay. So here you have a try yourself button if you are playing that with me. And it's gonna give you 2 sides. One where you type your code to try it out. And this is basically kind of like a fake web page. So I copied that code that you just saw and I'm gonna put it in here. Okay, so this is a website. So that's just telling the browser this is a web page. And so we're just gonna, do nothing with that. And our code is here to basically print. So when you run that, it's gonna show here what it's gonna do. So check it out. So you're actually basically printing hello, but it's getting bigger every time you go around. You can actually change, do another one. That's gonna go smaller every time. So see, it's kind of fun to play with that. So PHP enables you to do fun things like that and see right away on a web page how it would actually do things. Okay, so I'm going to try another example. So this was our first one with PHP. So a second one here would be to kind of like print a square. Okay, just, yeah. And the whole idea here is to introduce the concept of a nested loop. So we're going to have a loop inside the first loop. So what's going to happen here? We have a loop here that does the same thing we just saw. So it's going to do 5 times whatever is inside. But inside, we have a loop that's 5 times, and it's going to print some stars 5 times. And when you're done with that loop, I'm going to change to the next line, okay? And then go again to this loop. So this is what's happening here. So you get in with the I is 1. And then for when I is 1, I'm going to go down and make j all the way to 5 until j reach 6, okay? Then I'm going to go around, I is 2, the same thing happens. I go through all the j's. Then again, a third one, we're going to start with the first one and go all the way to the end. Make sense? So we have another one, and we start with a 4. I is 4, and j is going to have all the values again. And then 5. So inside my first loop, I have another loop that executes all these times and then go to the next and go to the next. Okay, so that I have an idea. Too many screens. Okay, people who told me that you never programmed before, can you tell me if this is okay or if you have any questions? Because I think I'm going a little too fast because a lot of people have programmed. I don't want this to be super boring. Kind of weird situation here. So if you have never programmed, is this making sense? Ask questions. Feel free to ask in private if you want. Apparently no messages. You guys okay? So for a lot of you, this is probably boring, but what can I do? It's kind of hard to teach to such a diverse group and without knowing people. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen with this one on our web page. Oops, wrong one. Okay, there's a problem here. Can't handle PHP, not PHP, but these windows are not helping me. Okay, let's see if I got it right now. Okay. Can you guys see my PHP? Yes, okay. Okay, so basically this is, the fonts are white, the background is red, and we have the 2 loops here. One is actually printing this one is gonna go through the lines, and this one is gonna go through the columns. So for each column, I'm gonna print a bunch of stars and then print a new line at the end of the loop. and then go around. So basically printing lines there, and you can make it a little bit bigger because that's kind of tiny. And changing is really easy and fun. So basically that's the idea. It's just, yeah, fun. Okay, making sense? Any questions about PHP and loops for that matter? Has anybody programmed with PHP before or tried web programming? Maybe some of you, JavaScript? Okay. Okay, so another example, this is the one we just did. Okay, another example is to basically print a diagonal. It's just to show how to use a conditional in a program in a simple way. Okay, we're gonna have the same loop we had before. So this entire thing here is gonna execute for 5 times, just like we did before. And then you get in here and this is also gonna execute for 5 times. But every time we're gonna check to see what I and J are, and we're gonna decide what to put in a spot, what to print actually, okay? And then at the end of that, you print a new line and you go to the next. So think about a kind of like an imaginary table. This is what we are actually creating, okay? So the first time we go in, I is 1. And J is also 1, right? So we compare, when I is equal to J, we put a 0 there. Here goes. Okay, so then you're gonna go around. I is still 1, but J is 2. So we're gonna go into the else and we're gonna put 1 in there. And you go around. I is still 1, but J is actually 3 now. So we're gonna put 1 in there. And then you go around and another 1 and another 1. Okay, so now we are done with this loop here. So I gonna go to the next line and increase I. So here we're gonna start again. I is now 2, but J is 1. So we got a 1 in there. But the second one, I is actually 2, but so is J. So we're gonna get another 0, okay? And again, they're gonna be different now. So you're gonna get basically 3 1s in there. So you guys already got the idea, right? So then you go to you go to the next line now, and you have I is equal to 3, and now we are stuck here in this line. So the first one, I is equal to 3, J is 1, so you get a 1. When I is equal to 3 and J is equal to 2, you get another 1. Now they are both 3, so you get a 0 in there. Again, we are not creating any tables. The table is just imaginary to give you an idea of what's actually happening, but we're gonna show what happens on the screen, but anyways, and it's the same. So then when it's 3 and 4, you get a 1, and 3 and 5, you get another 1. Okay, then you have an I is equal to 4, just like we saw before. J is 1. You get 1s for all of those. And then we have 0 here when I is equal to 4 and J is equal to 4. And another 1 to finish up. So we are done with 4 of the lines, and we're gonna go to the next one. So in this one, I is equal to 5, J is equal to 1, you're gonna get a 1. So you're gonna get a 1 for the first 4 ones. And at the last one, you're gonna actually have 0, okay? So this is how you create a diagonal on a 2D array, if you know what an array is, but in a table for that matter. Okay, so let's look into how we're gonna do that in our PHP example. Okay, going back to the PHP. Let's see if I got this right this time. Okay. So we have the same code in here, and that's to the red. Let's run that. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, never mind. This is missing something. Okay, so the same thing we did. Let's make it bigger because that's not fun. That's too big to see. Okay, can you guys see that over there? So there's a diagonal of zeros. Let's try to do something different. So what if I wanted to make the other diagonal also zero? How do I do that? Does anybody know how to actually do that? How can I put zeros on this side as well? What do you think? Can anybody tell me? I need to extend this if here, right? Does anybody have any ideas on how to decide how to make the other one? Let's say it's a 20 by 20 by 20 table there. When is this supposed to go to a zero? Okay, so this is 1, 1, right? And it's gonna go all the way to 120. So if you have, if they're the same, you are here. As this means that the first, the I is 20, the I is 1, and this guy here is 20. When you go down to this guy, one increase and the other decrease. Agree? When you go down to here, one of them increase, the I increase. So the I, as you go down, the I keeps increasing. And the J keeps decreasing. Does that make sense? So this is 1 and 20. This is going to be 2 and 19. This is going to be 3 and 18. So the sum of them are always the same. Agree with me? So what's the sum? So I plus J is equal to 21 here, right? 20 plus 1. Does anybody agree with me? So I plus J is 21. When you go down here, I plus J is also 21. Agree? And again and again. So what if I say that is that, or $I plus $J is equal to 21. Does that make sense? Do you guys think that's gonna work? Maybe? Even I don't know, because usually I do that differently. We'll see. Check it out. Cool, huh? So our job in programming is basically coming up with ways on how to actually, solve problems. So you have variables and you have some mechanisms that you actually know. I call them like a bag of little solutions. But at the end of the day, everything is going to be, repetitions, conditionals, and basically the sequence. But the idea is that you always look into a problem and come up, how do you combine the variables to actually, come up with the solutions? Some of you had interesting ideas here, and I just saw that, and good job. And some of you had it right. Good, yay. That's awesome. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, let's see. How do I get here? I go back to my PHP, to my PowerPoint. Okay, so that is, our last example. Okay, so this was my last slide, but I do have like some homework for you. So now that you know about the DoubleTree schools, if you didn't know before, now you do. And actually, it's not the only one that does PHP. There are other sites that actually do that too. But I want you to do some cool things. So I wanted to try to output a checkers board and to also output a triangle. You know, like we did the square. So, you know, you should try on your own to actually do a triangle. Since we actually have time, let's go with the checkers board to see how we could change that code to do the checkers board. Okay. Go back here. So what do you think? So right now, we actually have like both diagonals. Let's go back to thinking about the checkers board. The checkers board is going to be alternating zeros and ones, right? So do you guys have any suggestions on how I can traverse these, you know, considering where I am with my I and my J, if I put a zero or a one in there? Any suggestions on that? Think about it. If it equals an odd versus even number. Okay, that's the idea. Even and odd is the idea. As you go around, in the first one is going to be I is going to be odd, right? First, they're going to be both odds. Then one changes, but the second line is going to be reversed. Okay, so you're going to be going odd, even, odd, even, odd, even as you go down in both directions. So at each one of them, if you could combine both of them, some of you are getting there. So the idea here is they're combined. What about, think about I plus j in each of them. If it's the I plus j is odd, the I plus j is going to be even in the next one, agree? So let's go try that to see if that works. So if I plus j I know I'm putting more stuff here that is new, but bear with me here because again, I won't have 45 minutes, and to make it interesting for people who have programmed, it's like a very interesting adventure. So if my I plus j mod 2 is going to tell me if it's even or odd. Mod 2 is the remainder of the division. Most of you should probably know that. So when you make a mod 2, this is the percent sign. If it's 0, that means that it's even. So I'm going to check that. If it's even, I'm going to put a 0 in there. Okay. So the first one, they are both 1. When you add them together, is that even or odd? 1 plus 1, is that even or odd?
Even.
Even, right? Okay, thank you. Oh my God, that's so much better to hear something coming back from there. So when you go to the next one, it's going to be 1 plus 2. That's odd. Then 1 plus 3, that's even. So this is how, you know, the sum is going to be alternating. So let's see how that runs. Got that? So this is how you do like a checkers board kind of pattern. Okay, do you guys have a suggestion? We have a few minutes. Okay, I can show you the triangle just for fun since we do have some more time. I didn't think I was going to have time. So let's go with the triangle. Oh, this got really messed up. Okay. I was playing with that. Let's see how that is. So this is a little different. I actually used the for loop instead of a while loop, and when I copied it, got all confused. I apologize for that. Okay. Again, this is extra. This was meant to be here, but since we have a couple of minutes, here it goes. So we are going to do this 9 times. So there will be 9 lines. And there is another one. There's 2 loops now because I want to show a triangle, but there's some spaces before, right? If you make a triangle, you need to put spaces before you actually put the triangle. So the interesting thing is that this loop is going to be decreasing because it's going to be a bunch of spaces and they're going to decrease. But this loop that is actually making the triangle is going to be increasing as you go down. So one loop decreases, the other increases. And again, this is extra. It's not even meant to be there, but just for fun so that you can play with something more interesting since you're so advanced. Here it goes. So when you run that, it should work, but we'll see. Yeah, here, check it out. So does that make sense? So let's think about that. Again, this big loop is the one I showed you outside. So that's gonna go over the lines, okay? When you go in here, this is the loop putting the spaces in here, okay? So you're gonna start with 9 spaces, although for each 9, there's 3 of them. For each of them, there's 3 just because the spaces are narrower than the start. So for each line, this is going to decrease as you go. Okay, so you start with 9 and then goes down. Then this one is going to increase. So you start with 1 and it's going to increase as you go. Okay, and then a line at the end. Here you're going to decrease the number of spaces and increase the number of stars, and then you go around. Is that fun? Okay, again, I wasn't gonna show you that. This is why there are for loops in there, but everybody's super advanced here, so I decided to do something just different and for fun. Okay, so let's go back to my slides, if I can. Okay. Okay, that's the end of our lecture. Oh my God, I think I lost the slides somewhere there. Anyways, it's okay. That's the end of our lecture. It's 2:45. You guys are free to go. Thanks for participating. And if you have any questions, yeah, I'm going to type my email here. I love to talk to students anyway. So this is my email. Again, I'm Professor Figueira, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about PHP or about Santa Clara and our program, which is super fun. And yeah, welcome to SCU. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice
Thank you very much.
to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.